Hi, I'm Jay Anderson. Welcome to part 2 of Introduction to Hinayana Buddhism. Buddha, aka Tathagata, claimed his new knowledge to be the byproduct of human intellect, human endeavor, and human fortitude. There is no supreme being in Hinayana Buddhism. Likewise, there is no eternal damnation. There is no permanent residence in a pearly gated community, and there isn't even the concept of a soul to save. Surely this would not bode well in any community where religious authority was already firmly established. Religious leaders in a position of power would have never dreamt of telling the members of the lower castes that they too were in a position of receiving direct knowledge, especially without the involvement of high-ranking Hindu priests called the Brahmin caste. Tathagata presented his Four Noble Truths, that the causes of suffering could be identified and minimized through an understanding of its underlying cause and the resulting way out of this cycle. The process of deconstructing conventional norms was at the heart of his teachings. Nothing, including his teachings, should be taken as fact without a person having direct personal experience of its efficacy. So said the teacher. In this manner, Tathagata shunned any notion of him magically imparting wisdom to others in what he considered to be to the detriment of one's own personal discovery. If it doesn't fit, move on, he said to prospective followers, or at least words to that effect. Collecting devotees for the mere purpose of legitimizing his persona was never part of the teacher's plan. Rather, education was at the forefront of his effort. Secondly, Tathagata established the Eightfold Path, a set of simple instructions how to best avoid stumbling blocks that were thought to impede the acquisition of knowledge. At the core of his message was the stripping away of one's conventional thought forms in an attempt to break the chain of karmic events that bind the individual to his or her sensory organs. Many of the most advanced sadhus in India came to study with the teacher. Housing was built to accommodate students, as Tathagata spent the yearly monsoon seasons on the grounds at Sarnath. Much of their discussions centered around the impermanence of life and how to best respond to this fact. The teaching style in India at that time was almost entirely in the oral tradition. People listened and people remembered. There was nothing written down about Buddhism for centuries to come. In fact, Tathagata was not renamed Buddha, or He Who Knows, for many, many decades after his death. We know very little about Tathagata's physical appearance. He was described as neither too short nor too tall, with a pleasant facial appearance. However, sculptures of the Buddha are symbolic in nature, with no bearing on his actual likeness. For centuries, he was simply represented as a footprint in the sand. Thus here, thus gone. Hinayana Buddhism is also called the little vehicle, or sometimes the lesser vehicle. Hinayana Buddhism morphed into Mahayana Buddhism as the centuries passed. Historically, every attempt has been made on a very intellectual level to relegate early forms of Buddhism to a secondary status. Eventually, Buddhism left India and traveled the Silk Road or other such routes to other parts of Asia. Thailand is one of the countries that practices Theravada Buddhism, which is a term often preferred over the pejorative term Hinayana. Thailand joins Laos, Cambodia, Myanmar, Vietnam, and Sri Lanka as the current homes of this doctrine. On the evening of his death, Buddha assembled his Sangha, his students. He asked them if they had any last-minute questions to ask of him. In his last spoken words, he told them that all composite things are subject to decay. He then joined them in seated meditation. At this time, he merged with what has come to be known as nothingness with a capital N. In Sanskrit, it is called parinirvana. The students were said to have expressed their sorrow by softly weeping as they realized their teacher had just passed away. One of the messages that the Buddha left behind was that realization is not the product of high birth status or outward appearance or wealth or power. Plainly put, it is the product of right intention and right effort. Nothing is a given, and all creatures are subject to the same karmic laws. Secondly, that our judgments and our belief systems be influenced by a sense of justice, kindness, and compassion, rather than abject self-interest. Perhaps the most unusual aspect of Buddha's approach was his insistence that each individual weigh the value of his teachings through their own direct, lived experience. He wanted no one to take his message at face value and blindly accept his understandings. Rather, he encouraged each individual to exercise discernment, perform a deep critique, and either accept or reject his teachings according to their own volition. Feel free to view my other projects, and thank you so much for watching.